We take pride in the fact that the divorce rates in India are extremely low. However, do we even give a thought as to what exactly is the reason for the divorce rate being low? It need not necessarily be that the marriage is happy. There can be a thing wherein the spouse, specifically the female, does not have the right or the freedom to make her own choice, as a result of which she keeps continuing being in a marriage in which she might be undergoing harassment, domestic violence, marital rape, and whatnot. So here in 21st century, when we are in 2026, the world is moving forward. It is becoming more liberal. Things are supposedly getting better and better with respect to the freedom of the people. But one thing still remains dark, and that is the death due to dowry and the harassment related to dowry. Now certain cases, two prominent cases who have gained a lot of popularity, you would say, and many others as well, so two importantly have come to light, and it has basically reached every social media corner and is being talked about. So we'll see what are those two cases and the others that have come, but more importantly we will try to understand as to why India is still reporting about 7,000 dowry deaths, or deaths due to dowry and harassment related to it, every single year. This means every day 20 deaths are taking place. That means on an average every single hour someone is dying, some female is dying because of dowry. So let us understand what are the reasons, what can be done in order to curb this social evil that is present in our society. So, of course, the news is about the recent deaths of women in Noida and in Bhopal, the two cases that have been prominently come in the social media and the news channels, etc. Now, wherein in Bhopal, again, it is alleged that it is due to dowry. However, the in-laws of the deceased is basically of the deceased girl is saying that it is not the case. Over here in Noida, there is another female who committed suicide by jumping from the roof. Right. So again, alleged dowry related suicide. So hence dowry related death. But again, the in-laws are saying that is not the case. Anyway, let's move ahead to the important dimension of this lecture, that despite the legal prohibition, so legally dowry is basically prohibited. Now this legal prohibition is present since 1961. Still 7,000 plus dowry, approximately 7,000 dowry deaths are taking place. Right. Now why is that the case is what we will try to understand. So let's understand the recent cases first. So from Bhopal you have Twisha Sharma's case, wherein the family has alleged, the family of Twisha Sharma has alleged that there has been a prolonged dowry harassment by the husband and the in-laws. Right. So here one more thing that we should keep in mind is, if any such demand is there before the marriage, you should basically not move ahead with it. However, easier said than done, people do still move ahead. Now after the marriage, when you find out things like this, again then also very strong action needs to be taken. Again, everyone is not capable of that, and we cannot say that the female should have taken the matter on by her own and did this, she is learned, she is educated, this, that, all those things we say. But it is not that easy for a victim to do that, and if you keep on criticizing the female for that, basically you will be victimizing the victim itself over there, because these things are, dowry is so normalized and the harassment is so normalized that the society takes it to be a given. Yes, this much of violence, this much of dowry requirement is anyhow there, we have normalized it as such. We should not, and also we need to create sensitization and awareness in the society. The next case is about the Deepika Nagar case from Greater Noida. Women in early 20s, around 22 years of age is what is being reported. She basically also have been undergoing the harassment by husband and in-laws. Then there are other cases as well. The Delhi police SWAT commando Kajal Chaudhary murdered by husband over dowry demands, and she was also 4 months pregnant. So these are the cases which are there in front of us, right? Now let's understand the magnitude of problem. So NCRB findings for 2024, around 1008 dowry related incidents reported in metros alone. Metros. And so many thousands would be unreported. Thousands, so many dowry deaths would have taken place but never classified as dowry. So those we are not even counting over here. A very dark figure coming out from Bengaluru, which recorded 878 cases. 87% of the metro dowry incidents are coming from Bengaluru. It's astonishing. However, we need to also understand that there is a very high probability that it is because Bengaluru is reporting more. That can also be the case, but the number is so loop-sided, which basically, makes us to think that why is so much concentrated in this region. So that's a low-hanging fruit that we need to attack. Basically, make it aware, make people aware, and come up with certain regulations and monitoring and sensitization. Right. So cruelty by husbands or relatives, that remains the largest category of crimes against women. What is that? Cruelty by the husband or the relatives, in-laws and the relatives. Okay. Moving ahead, if you look at the state-wise data, so presently, if you look at the cases, Uttar Pradesh has the highest number of cases in 21,266. Of course, the population is also the highest, so unitary method wise it will be, but it is disproportionately high. Then you have Rajasthan with 10,000, Maharashtra with 10,538. Remember, in many states the numbers might be low because reporting might not take place, so that might be even a worse situation than what it is over here. Then if you look at the deaths, around 7,000 dowry deaths annually between 17 to 2022 on an average. And Delhi reported the highest dowry deaths among metros in 2024. So if you look at the percentage wise death among the metros, so NCR has 30% of the deaths that is taking place, whereas Bengaluru is less than 10. So reporting is high, but the death is lesser, which reporting sort of helps also to avoid further exacerbation of the things that are there. Okay, let's move ahead. Let us understand the legal provision that is present against dowry. So you have the dowry prohibition under the Dowry Prohibition Act of 1961, which I have already mentioned. Then you have the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Earlier it was the Indian Penal Code, right? So under Indian Penal Code, section 304B related to dowry. Now under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, it is section 80 that deals with dowry, and it is applicable when women dies unnaturally within 7 years of marriage. Within 7 years of marriage. This is a criteria wherein dowry deaths can happen even before after 7 years as well, right? Harassment doesn't stop, the demand doesn't stop, it keeps on happening. Every now and then you would expect everything to come to you only as a part of dowry, so it can, but yes, this is the definition. Then you have the evidence of dowry related cruelty exists before death. Evidence of, it is applicable when the evidence of dowry related cruelty exists before death. So even before dying, if the cruelty and evidence of it exists, it will come under the same clause. Other legal safeguards are basically protection under domestic violence laws. So Domestic Violence Act 2003 is also there. Legal provision against cruelty by husband or relative is also present. Now what is the challenge here? The challenge is law is strong, but the implementation is not. So strong law, but implementation and also social acceptance is not there as such. Right? Let's see, why does dowry still exist? Because of the patriarchal structure of the society. So marriage is basically seen as the transfer of the female from one family to another, from one patriarch to another patriarch, from one male to another, as if she's a property. That is what is happening. Then the social pressure on women to adjust and preserve the marriage, of course, because patriarchal society, she is moving out of her house into her husband's house, right? So she needs to adjust, and her in-laws will also be there. So basically the onus should be on the husband and his mother and father, whoever is living with him, in order to facilitate her over there. That's correct. At the same time, now what is happening is everyone works. So it should not also be a given that only X will move to Y's house or only Y will move to X house, depending upon a lot of other factors, and a mutual decision can also be taken where you want to stay, where you want to live. That's fair enough. Of course, your parents need support and your help in the elderly age, so it's not to leave their parents and go away. Probably that should also be taken into consideration, but it should not be a rule that only females are coming and staying, because the world has globalized, the world has changed. Now both the partners are working partners, so there can be certain modifications in these things. And at the same time, if it's the woman that is actually coming to the male's house, to the husband's house, which is generally the case, then it is the onus on the husband and the family to make her feel safe, comfortable, and ensure that she adjusts properly, and you adjust also according to her. Then economic incentives. So well educated employed men, they demand higher dowries. If you are on a government job, a higher post, earning more, you also demand a higher dowry. Then families see dowry as investment recovery for groom's education, right? So the from the groom side, they are looking at, they have invested so much in the groom, right? He is going to earn so much, the wife is also going to have a share in that, so give us a lot of money, right? So those kind of things, the logic people have come out with it. That is not the right way, but that is what is happening in the society. Then the social normalization, they don't call it a dowry, they call it gift, marriage custom, family prestige. It is a status symbol. If I give less, then what will people think of me? I have money, so I will give it. See, if you want to give it, don't give that. Just put things in your daughter's name which she can use whenever she wants and if she is in need. You don't have to give that to the husband in the husband's name. And in fact, when you are rich and you have the capacity to give more, that is when you can bring in more change, because the poor at the lower level is trying to match you, try to also give. If the rich stop giving, then it will no longer become a social status as well. So all of us need to work here. And then there is a stigma attached to divorce that is there. If you look at the structural and institutional challenges, one thing is there, that is underreporting. Why? Due to fear of stigma, family pressure, economic dependence on the husband as well. There is weak investigation, as a result of which 7,000 annual dowry deaths, but only 4,500 cases have been charge sheeted. Even charge sheets have not been filed. So what is the way forward? Way forward is to strengthen enforcement, to strengthen investigation specifically, improve evidence collection, victim protection, and forensic capacity needs to capabilities, financial forensics capabilities needs to increase, create social reforms, awareness, sensitization, and very important, empower the women with greater financial powers, right? Greater financial power, decision making, and the upbringing also should be done in such a manner. Provision of education, and so provision of education, employment opportunities for the female, so that she can also take care of herself financially. At the same time, sensitizing the males of the society as well, that this is not the way to move your life ahead. So awareness, sensitization, regulation, investigation, and proper implementation of the already strict rules that are there should be the way forward. Thank you.